if you look at the vibrational frequencies of how people operate on the higher spectrum of vibrational frequency, like you have enlightenment, but underneath that you have love, joy, gratitude, and at the bottom you have shame.
Yeah.
So you operating at your lowest form of vibrational frequency, you are operating in a state of what? Shame. So when you do something that you know you're not supposed to do, you go into your lowest form of vibration, aka the lowest form of yourself. And most people live in a state of what I like to call quiet desperation. They live in a state of quiet shame. So they're ashamed of their habits, they're ashamed of what they do, but they don't change. aka they're always living in a low state of vibration. And you see them walking around, they walk unhappy, they operate unhappy. When they interact with people, they are unhappy. Why? Because they're not the best versions of themselves.
Yeah. I was in that state. I think it was in 2018. I was in a long distance relationship where I barely got to see my girlfriend. I literally had no social life. I was bored, and I was thinking to myself, there must be more to life than this. And because I was bored, because I wasn't doing anything that was providing me with joy or happiness, I would just resort to food. And that was my temporary happiness that was also keeping me at this very low level of vibration. And I noticed that when I decided to sort my life out and be like, right, there has to be more to life than this. I'm going to go out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I traveled a lot. I moved out of London, and I realized I naturally just became a hell of a lot happier. And when I'm in a happier state, I have like no interest in eating bad food.
Yes. And for many people, eating is a form of coping. It's a coping mechanism. Have you fasted? Have you done like some pretty long fasts?
I've never done. I don't think I've ever done a 24-hour fast.
No.
The longest one I did a few times when I've done it during Ramadan.
Yeah.
And I think the very longest one was when I did it in the UK, because I had a client when I was a personal trainer. He was doing it. So I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do it as well, because I'm curious to know what it's actually like and how I would train if I'm going to be fasting all day and not drinking any water. So I think that it was in the middle of summer. So the sunset was at 9:30.
Yeah.
So that was a full day.
Yeah, pretty long.
No food, no water. Not eating the food was doable. I think since I started intermittent fasting, to begin with, it's like really weird. And you're just thinking, I need to eat. I'm not going to survive. But you will. Of course you will. You have so much stored energy. It's just like impossible for you to not survive.
Yes.
But not drinking the water was more of a challenge.
But have you done like water fasts that are just like, or no?
No.
Okay, so people that do water fasts, and I experienced this, 2 days into your water fast, you start roaming the kitchen. Imagine how much mental real estate is occupied by eating.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, I have to eat breakfast, eat lunch, eat dinner. Dude, that's a fucking huge psyop. I've talked about it before. People think that breakfast is this normal thing that is just everybody has always done, but it's not. Edward Bernays, who's known as the father of propaganda, he's, I think, the uncle to the founder of Netflix, another propaganda machine. He created a campaign based off of breakfast. The meat industry came to him and said, hey, we're missing sales on sausages and bacon. We need to boost the sales of sausages and bacon. So he created this entire campaign and went to all the medical professionals and said, hey, let's start pushing breakfast being the healthiest, most essential meal of the day. And guess what happened to the sale of bacon and sausages? Skyrocketed. He did the exact same thing with what? Cigarettes. He was the guy behind cigarettes empowering women. So he built an entire campaign. We're talking about these myths of health, right? And he said, okay, the cigarette companies came to Edward Bernays and they're like, you know what? We need to boost our sales. I think it was Lucky. Lucky was the company back in the day. You've probably seen those old commercials Lucky. And the entire premise of the campaign was cigarettes to women are torches of freedom. So the entire campaign was, if you are a woman and you want the empowerment of being a woman and the freedom that comes with being a woman, smoke a cigarette. So what now? Health is correlated with breakfast. Women's empowerment is correlated with cigarettes. So how can you differentiate those? So you need to evaluate, in my opinion, the source of the information that's telling you what you do, instead of just adopting that philosophy and those belief systems, and always asking, what is the source of the information? Why are they saying this? And is it true?
Yeah. Nobody does any critical thinking anymore.
Nobody, brother.
People are just, whatever they see, they believe. And I don't know, when I kind of came to the realization that this was not the way to think, I think before COVID, but particularly around COVID, I started questioning everything. I was like, why am I being shown this on the news sites? It's like, why are they choosing to talk about this and not the other things? Like, why were they not talking about just going outside, being more active, getting all your vitamins and being healthy? Why were they just saying, oh, hide, cover up, and avoid people?
I mean, the answer is very simple. You just have to look at who owns the companies.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look at who owns CNBC, who owns Fox, who owns CNN, at the top of the shareholder list, you have Vanguard and BlackRock. Then you look at the manufacturers of the jabs. Okay, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, who are the top shareholders of those companies, Vanguard and BlackRock. Now you look at the flight companies that banned all flights. No flights unless you're taken care of. Who are the top shareholders? Vanguard, BlackRock. You look at the food. Okay, who are the top shareholders of all this junk food? Vanguard and BlackRock. So it's this ecosystem of how to print butterflies out of thin air. So the media is controlled, the food is controlled, the narrative is controlled, the transportation is controlled. Who owns Meta? Who owns Snapchat? Who owns, well, used to be, but still kind of does, Twitter? Who owns Google? They're pushing the same narrative. The media is pushing, oh, it's the same company. It's BlackRock, it's Vanguard. Profit-driven companies. So this idea of breakfast, right? Edward Bernays, cigarettes, Edward Bernays, is the exact same play, but at a macro global scale at this point. Why? Because they have access to the internet, and the distribution of information is a lot more simple and effective at a mass viral scale, as opposed to newspaper and billboards like it used to be back in the day.
What do you think about AI?
AI is going to replace a lot of people, brother. And in 2019, I had the privilege to sit down, I can't disclose the names, but with some people that were working on some top tier AI companies. And recently I had the privilege of talking to some people that are executives or high up people at OpenAI. In 2019, when I set out to build Capital Club, my entire premise was, based off my conversations with these people, was I need to build an AI proof company. And as I sat down with these people, I said, there's two things that AI will never be able to replace: personal development and community. So AI will never be able to eat healthy on your behalf. It'll never be able to go to the gym on your behalf. And community, they'll never be able to have this, right, on your behalf. Yeah, that may be 30, 40, 50 years down the road. It doesn't really matter. It may not replace construction workers at this time. That may be 100 years down the road. But all these white collar skills, dude, I had one of my lawyers, my retainers, $500 an hour. That's what I have to pay. I'm assuming my lawyer knows the shit that they're talking about. I cross-referenced that with ChatGPT, some Puerto Rican tax law, whatever. My lawyer was wrong. I fired that motherfucker instantly. Really? Yes, brother. Yes. So now I'm like, okay, what about 10 years down the road? This thing that's going to understand and read all the tax law, that's going to understand all the criminal like playground. Am I going to need a lawyer? Potentially not. Am I going to need an accountant when AI can literally run my books? Most likely not. And you're seeing now with the editing softwares, right? AI is literally chopping up and editing shit instantly. Am I going to need a video editor? Oh yeah, but you're going to need a video editor for movies. Yeah, but that's short-term thinking. What about 10 years down the road? So I'm building companies of tomorrow because technology is advancing so quickly. There's a concept known as Moore's Law. I think Moore is the guy that created, I think, Dell, company Dell. Don't quote me, but I think it's Dell. And he created this concept of Moore's Law, that technology advances super quickly and it becomes cost efficient. So the processing power doubles and the cost happens every like 2 years or something like that. So stuff is ramping up and people are still going to university. People are still doing traditional jobs. Maybe fine, but 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road, how are you going to be positioned? So in 2019, I was like, I need to build an AI proof company, build Capital Club, focus on developing this concept of entrepreneurs, building and scaling digital businesses and community, like this interaction, irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And it's playing out just according to plan.
I've seen some people say it's going to become so smart that we will literally not even be able to understand it.
Brother, just wait till somebody creates an AI that puts Jesus, Muhammad, the Buddha, all into one, and people start worshiping the church of AI. Just wait for it, bro. Watch it. Clip this. Wait for it, bro. Motherfuckers in Japan already have virtual girlfriends in the metaverse. What do you think? What do you think people are not
be
gonna...
a big thing?
Come on,
virtual
brother.
Girlfriends where they can actually figure out like the how to make a physical.
A virtual girl that's powered by AI, that knows your personality, that caters to you, that has a sort of personality.
Doesn't give you any shit,
brother. Come on. Like it may not be today, but remember, 50, 100 years ago, people were talking about cell phones. Very few people were talking about cell phones. 20, 30 years ago, people were talking about the internet changing the world, and everybody called them freaks. Everybody called them idiots. And that's what we use it today. We're basically cyborgs, bro. We don't go anywhere without our phones. Nowhere. Now wait till AI is integrated into every aspect of humanity.